11 Alive Plus for these updates on the possibility of icy conditions as this weekend evolves. We are tracking that weekend winter storm. So we've got a weather impact alert beginning today through Sunday and even into Monday as our cold air arrives and our rain transitions into some freezing rain. So it does look like ice accumulation is a likely scenario over the course of the next couple of days. So really Saturday through Monday, that's when our impact is going to be the highest. We'll be tracking this freezing rain. So what do you need to do? Just plan for impacts, especially to travel. We will likely see power outages. Some areas of the state may be a little bit more impacted than others. But my best advice at this point is to get wherever you need to be throughout the weekend within the next few hours, and then just plan to stay there as we go throughout the weekend. This is a major winter storm across the continental U.S. We've got a number of winter weather watches as well as advisories, and in our neck of the woods, some ice storm warnings that kick in later today. Right now, that winter storm is starting to bring additional snowfall and ice across Texas, Oklahoma, into portions of Arkansas, and it's even pushing as far east as Mississippi and Alabama. Now, most of this at this point is kind of a mix of rain down towards the south to freezing rain to sleet and to snow. We are showing a little bit in North Georgia when it comes to rain and freezing rain, but I want to say that at this point the atmosphere is really dry. So the air below these clouds, very dry. So even though we're picking up some of this on radar, I'm doubtful at this point that anything showing up on the radar is actually reaching the ground. Another important note here is that temperatures are still vastly above freezing. There are some spots up into far north Georgia, Blairsville, Dalton, that are sitting at 33 degrees. But if anything were to be falling at this point, and I don't think it is, it would be coming down as rainfall, not any type of wintry precipitation yet. Now, today is going to be one of those days where temperatures drop as we get into this afternoon. So where we're at right now is likely kind of the warmest it's going to be at any point today. So conditions will start to deteriorate more as we get into this afternoon and evening, and especially overnight tonight. Things will start out kind of slow. So a little bit of a wintry mix will develop throughout the day today. While we could start to see some untreated roads turn slick by this afternoon or evening, our temperatures are really going to help us out. So because our air temperatures right now are in the upper 30s and low 40s in a lot of locations, it's going to take some time for the ground to start freezing. By tonight, I think we'll start to see more impacts. Accumulation will start to intensify. That snow, freezing rain mixture is going to become more widespread into tonight and tomorrow morning. Temperatures will also drop down into the 20s. So tonight is when I think things really take a turn. We'll likely watch as roads turn slick and icy, and we'll deal with that possibility into Sunday as well. Now, winter weather is going to continue into Sunday, but in some spots, especially through the metro and down towards the southwest of the city, we may actually get a little bit of a warm up tomorrow, which will help us transition back from some freezing rain to areas of just rainfall. So we're going to be watching those temperatures really closely. In situations like this, even a couple degree difference can have big impacts on the type of precipitation we see. In some spots, though, especially northeast of the metro, we will likely continue to see accumulating freezing rain, which not only is going to worsen roadways, but will also start to lead to power outages. So our power outage threat is going to start going up by Sunday morning and then into Sunday afternoon. So overall impacts are very high across the state. Again, I think we'll start to see most of that tonight and into tomorrow morning. So you still have a little bit of time left to prepare. Now, we do have an ice storm warning in effect across a good chunk of North Georgia that does include Metro Atlanta. So these spots in the ice storm warning, that's where we're anticipating significant ice accumulation. Down towards the south of that, we also have a winter weather advisory that will be in effect. Again, these go through Monday morning. In the spots highlighted by the winter weather advisory, some accumulating ice is still possible, but it won't be quite as impactful as those locations in the ice storm warning. This is just one forecast model, but I want to show you the potential for ice accumulation. We're talking likely anywhere from 1/10 of an inch up to about 1/2 inch for the bulk of North Georgia, and then up towards the northeast, that's where I think ice accumulation could be way worse in many spots. spots. We're talking a ½ inch up to maybe an inch of ice accumulation. So those areas up towards the northeast, that's where we are anticipating major impacts from this ice accumulation, not only to roads, of course, but also when it comes to trees snapping, power lines coming down because of the weight of that ice. So in these locations highlighted by the major impacts where we could see anywhere from a ½ inch of ice up to maybe even a full inch of ice in some spots, that's where we could be going longer periods of time with power outages should those occur. The further down towards the southwest you go, the less impactful the ice is going to be. But a good reminder that it doesn't take all that much ice to start seeing impacts across the state. By a 1/10 of an inch of ice, that leads to a light glaze on roads and sidewalks, slick bridges, coated windshields, and even isolated power outages. By the time you get to a 1/4 inch of ice, we see icy roads, tree limbs start to sag and break, and that number of power outages goes up. By about a ½ inch, that's when things start to become a little bit more catastrophic with dangerous and if not impossible travel on roads, widespread tree damage, and long-term power outages. So we're going to be watching this very closely. The exact number of ice accumulation could change depending on how the day evolves. And as I said, temperatures are going to play a big impact in how the next 48 hours play out. As far as it goes throughout the next few hours, I think as the air continues to saturate, as the atmosphere becomes a little less dry, those little showers that we're seeing on the radar, they will actually start to reach the ground. This is by 9 o'clock. Things are starting to get perhaps a little bit wetter up into far north Georgia, but notice at this point, our temperatures are still for the most part above freezing. And that'll be the case across a good chunk of North Georgia through the I-20 corridor and south, especially through the vast majority of the day today. In fact, I think for the Atlanta metro, we'll probably stay above freezing until at least sunset tonight. Showers will be kind of hit and miss throughout the daytime hours. It's not until later this evening that things start to pick up. And in a lot of spots, this will start as just a light rainfall, not freezing rain, just normal cold rainfall. This is not great because not only does it put more moisture on the ground to freeze when temperatures do drop, but when we get this rainfall, it kind of dilutes that brine mixture that GDOT is currently out putting down, and they will be out working hard again throughout the day today and into tonight and tomorrow to make sure that even when the rain dilutes it, they still have plenty to help make our roads as best as they can be in this situation. Our forecast track again brings more in the way of shower coverage into tonight and tomorrow. As we go into the overnight, that's when temperatures will start to quickly drop. So our scenario changes very quickly from just a light cold rainfall to freezing rain for much of the state by about midnight, and that will be prolonged periods of freezing rainfall after sunset tonight through tomorrow morning. By 9 a.m. tomorrow, a lot of spots are still picking up on freezing rain, including metro Atlanta. As we go into the day tomorrow, I do think temperatures will start to warm up a little bit. I say warm, but we're talking the difference between, instead of being at 30 degrees, we'll jump up to 34 or 35 degrees. While that may seem like a small change, it's going to have really good implications for our forecast because in a lot of spots, it will transition that freezing rain and the ice accumulation back to just a cold rainfall throughout the day on Sunday. Notice though, some spots up towards the northeast of the city where I said ice accumulation will be higher, stay as freezing rainfall for the duration of this event. Temperatures again will warm up a little bit into Sunday, leading to that rainfall. It depends on how much ice accumulation we end up seeing, but this is a good scenario for us because it will help to melt away some of the accumulating ice. It may not completely get rid of it, but it will help to get rid of some of it. What will happen though is our roads and just overall everywhere is going to be pretty wet going into Sunday night as our truly cold air comes in. So temperatures today and tomorrow are still in the 30s, but as we go into Monday and Tuesday, really cold air comes in. So overnight by Monday night, we'll get down into the 20s. So anything that's left over from the showers on Sunday will have the opportunity to refreeze into early Monday morning. So if you're kind of sitting in your house Sunday afternoon and you notice things don't look that bad, we could have refreezing into Monday morning, and that's when we start seeing black ice. So you will still want to be very cautious even into Monday. And for some spots outside of the metro, temperatures will not get back above freezing until at least Tuesday night. So especially northeast of the city where the higher ice accumulation totals are expected, not only will things stay frozen, but roads will likely remain impassable in some locations. And if you do have power outages, it will be very hard for crews to get to them and resolve them until at least Tuesday afternoon. So that colder air comes in Monday and into Tuesday. Again, if you do have to be out, if you do still have last minute preparations to do, now's the time to do it. The next couple hours, things will start to deteriorate pretty quickly as we get into Saturday this afternoon and overnight tonight. We'll continue to bring these updates to you here on 11 Alive Plus every half hour. You can also join us live. I'll be with meteorologist Chesley McNeil on 11 Alive beginning at 8:30. Saturday morning. I'm meteorologist Nicole Hartford. Thank you for joining us for this live weather update on 11 Alive Plus. We're tracking the possibility of wintry weather across North Georgia, including accumulating freezing rainfall today and through tomorrow. So we have a weather impact alert that goes into effect today and continues until Monday with that possibility of freezing rain. You need to start planning now if you have not already for potential travel impacts as well as power outages. Exactly how kind of bad these will be are very dependent on location because some spots are going to see a lot more accumulating ice than others. This is a major winter storm across the continental U.S. We've got winter weather advisories, winter storm watches and warnings, as well as ice storm warnings that stretch from Colorado and New Mexico all the way across the country down towards us in metro Atlanta and then up towards the northeast as well. So this is a highly impactful winter storm, and it's already starting to drop some snow and freezing rain across portions of Texas as well as New Mexico into Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Now, there is a little bit showing up so far on the radar here in North Georgia. I want to caution you, I don't really think any of this that is showing up on the radar is actually reaching the ground at this point. The reason is because the air is just so dry. So as this continues to fall, the air below those clouds will saturate a little more and things will eventually start reaching the ground. But for right now, this is likely not reaching the ground. It's evaporating before it does so. Also, a very important part of our forecast, temperatures. Right now, the vast majority of people are still above freezing and by a pretty large margin. We're mostly in the upper 30s and low 40s. Now, there are some exceptions into far north Georgia. Of course, at elevation, temperatures are a little bit colder. Right now in Dalton, we're at 32, and these northern counties will be the first to start seeing that transition from rainfall to some freezing rain as we go throughout the day today. For the rest of us, it will take a little bit of time for temperatures to start getting colder, but as we go throughout the day, we will start to drop to the freezing point. Today is going to be one of those days where temperatures actually fall instead of getting warmer. So where we are now is about as warm as it's going to be throughout the day. Because of that, our transition from rain to some wintry mix of freezing rain and sleet will likely start to take place as we get into later this afternoon and this evening. That means much of the day today, especially through the morning, things should stay pretty quiet. Now we'll watch as wintry mix develops throughout the day. Untreated roads, bridges, overpasses, those are going to be the first to stay slick. If you still have preparations to get done, now is the time to do it. But if you don't have to be on the roads, don't, as GDOT gets out and continues to brine the roads and treat them to make sure we're set up to make the roads as good as they can be as this ice starts to accumulate. Later this afternoon and evening, that's when accumulation is going to intensify. So not only will showers become more widespread, but we'll see that more widespread transition from rain to freezing rain. That will lead to roads turning slick and icy as temperatures drop down into the 20s. And then by tomorrow, we'll watch as that winter weather continues. I think the worst of this will likely be tonight and into tomorrow morning. That's when a lot of our ice accumulation will take place. And as that ice accumulates, it will also bring about more of a risk for down trees and down power lines, which does lead to power outages. Now, we're going to be watching our temperatures really closely tomorrow because in many areas, especially through the metro and down towards the south, we may get enough of a warm up to bring us back above freezing and transition that freezing rain back to a cold rain tomorrow. But that may not be the case for everyone, and there will still be spots that stay either at or below freezing beginning tonight and through tomorrow as well. So this is going to be a highly impactful storm in many locations, especially when it comes to icy roadways and that threat for power outages. Because of that, the National Weather Service has put out an ice storm warning. This does include metro Atlanta and a big chunk of North Georgia. In those locations highlighted by the ice storm warning, that's where the impacts are expected to be the highest. So we could see in some locations significant ice accumulation that makes travel hazardous, if not impossible, because of icy roadways, and also leads to falling tree limbs, falling power lines, and power outages. Down towards the south, we've got a winter weather advisory in place. In these spots, we're still expecting to see some accumulating ice, but it may not be quite up to the level or the accumulation of what we're expecting in the ice storm warning. Now, this is just one forecast model, but it gives you an idea of how much ice we're thinking. As far as ice accumulation goes, I think the highest totals are going to end up being northeast of Metro Atlanta. This is where the impacts are going to be major. We're talking ice accumulation of up to perhaps a ½ inch to even an inch, which would lead to extremely slick roads that are hazardous, if not impossible, to travel on. It would also lead to more widespread power outages. The further southwest you go, down towards the metro and southwest of the city, while impacts are still expected, they will not be quite as big. We'll still see power outages, we'll still see accumulating ice, but it will not be quite to the extent of what I'm anticipating up into far northeast Georgia. Ice does not take much either to start seeing impacts. At a 1/10 of an inch of accumulation, we've got a light glaze on roads and sidewalks, slick bridges, coated windshields, and even isolated power outages. By a 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation, we're talking icy roads, tree limbs that are breaking, and more numerous power outages. At a 1/2 of an inch, that's when it becomes near catastrophic, with dangerous, if not impossible, travel on roads, widespread tree damage, and long-term power outages possible. So here's how it plays out hour by hour. I mentioned our temperatures are going to have big impacts on how things play out through the weekend, so we're going to be watching them very closely. The good news is that at least through the bulk of today, a lot of spots are going to stay above freezing. The exception here, again, is going to be those far northern counties. So by 7:30, we may start to see some of those spots in northwest Georgia that are currently showing a little bit of precipitation on the radar. The atmosphere might become saturated enough that it actually leads to some stuff reaching the ground. At that point, temperatures for the most part, again, still above freezing, but in the northwest corner of the state, you may start to see some slick bridges and overpasses or some icy spots. The other thing about our temperatures is because we're still above freezing, and we have been above freezing for the vast majority of the last few days, it's going to take some time for roads, especially for ground temperatures, to get down and stay down below freezing. So even once this freezing rain begins, it may take some time before we actually start seeing ice accumulating on roads. So it gives us a little bit of a transition period. A lot of the day today should stay quiet. I'm not going to rule out some slick spots, especially up into far north Georgia, but not a lot going on until later this afternoon. Things start out kind of as just a cold rainfall. Then as temperatures drop, especially tonight, that's when we see that transition from just cold rain to more widespread freezing rain. This particular forecast model has widespread freezing rain by about midnight tonight. Temperatures are down into the 20s and the 30s. This is by 1 a.m. and we'll see prolonged, so hours of accumulating ice as we go from midnight tonight until early tomorrow morning. That means roads will become hazardous very quickly. You do not want to be driving tonight or early tomorrow morning as we watch that ice accumulate. Now, here's where that little warm up comes into play. As we go throughout the day on Sunday, some spots through the metro and out towards the west may actually manage to warm just far enough above freezing to transition that freezing rain back to a rainfall. Now, depending on how much ice accumulation we end up seeing, this may not be able to get rid of all of the ice, but it will help a little bit in terms of making things at least slightly less frozen into Sunday afternoon. Notice, though, up towards the northeast of the city, where I anticipate the highest ice accumulation totals, temperatures still stay just barely below freezing even through the day on Sunday, which will lead to not only additional ice accumulation, but while other areas may see a little bit of improvement, that may not end up being the case for these northeastern counties. So this line of showers and storms comes through. Notice some heavy rainfall within this. There's actually a severe weather threat associated with it down into portions of South Georgia and South Alabama into the afternoon hours on Sunday. As we watch this move through, things will start to dry out into Sunday night and early early Monday morning. So precipitation comes to an end, skies clear out a little bit, and temperatures plummet into Monday morning. This is when the truly cold air settles. So although things are kind of done when it comes to actively falling freezing rain, anything that's still on the ground will have the opportunity to refreeze. So roads will still be hazardous in some locations on Monday morning. There will still be icy spots. So I would recommend just kind of hunker down tonight through Sunday and even consider into Monday morning, because anything that does fall will refreeze, leading to those icy patches on roadways. This is when the truly colder air takes over. So some spots northeast of the city where ice accumulation is expected to be highest are not going to climb above freezing throughout the day on Monday. That means there will not really be an opportunity for any of that to thaw or melt. As we go into Tuesday, temperatures will start to climb above freezing. We'll also have some sun that returns on Monday into Tuesday, and that'll help us out when it comes to getting rid of the ice. But some spots northeast of the metro where we're anticipating up to a ½ inch to even more than that of ice accumulation, that's where we could see extended power outages because crews will not be able to get to locations until we climb above freezing on Tuesday afternoon. Morning temperatures Tuesday are also going to be cold in the teens and the single digits for actual air temperatures, and even colder than that when you factor in a light breeze. Again, we've got that weather impact alert as we watch the accumulating ice possibility across North Georgia. We'll continue to bring you these updates here on 11 Alive Plus every half hour. I will also be live with meteorologist Chesley McNeil on 11 Alive beginning at 8:30 this morning. Saturday morning. I'm meteorologist Nicole Hartford. Thank you for joining us here on 11 Alive Plus as we monitor our weather impact alert awaiting freezing rain and a winter storm across North Georgia. That weather impact alert is for today through Monday as we track not only freezing rain, but the arrival of some very cold air. So you need to plan for impacts to travel due to icy roadways, as well as potentially some downed trees and power lines, which could lead to power outages. This is a major winter storm across the country. There are winter storm warnings, winter storm watches, as well as ice storm warnings in place stretching from New Mexico and Texas all the way up to the northeast, and that does include here in our neck of the woods. Right now, not much going on for us. A lot of that wintry precipitation is still off towards the west, where there's a mix of snow, sleet, freezing rain, and rainfall from Texas through Arkansas, Oklahoma, even into Mississippi and Alabama. Now, the radar is picking up on a little bit of something up into far north Georgia, but I want to note that in a lot of these locations, the air is still so dry that I don't think much of this is actually reaching the ground. So while we could certainly see already some rain and freezing rain this morning, especially up into far north Georgia, and even some sleet possible, a lot of this so far is not reaching the ground. I think this will start to reach the ground a little more over the course of the next couple hours as the atmosphere saturates. Another important note is that in a lot of spots, temperatures are still pretty far above freezing. The exception is up into the northwest corner of the state in Dalton. We're at 31 degrees, so some sleet or freezing rain already possible there. And then up into elevation, temperatures are also at or below freezing. Through the Atlanta metro, we're pretty far above freezing at this point. We're at 44 degrees. This is likely going to be kind of our high temperature for the day today. It will be one of those days where temperatures fall throughout the afternoon. So as we start to bring in colder air, that transition from rain to freezing rain will become more widespread. So the bulk of the day today is actually not going to be so bad across much of the area. Again, into far north Georgia, we could start to accumulate some freezing rain, some sleet within the next few hours, and things will start to deteriorate there. But for the rest of us, especially through metro Atlanta, it's not until this afternoon that I think things will start to really pick up. So by today, untreated roads will start to turn slick. Our temperatures are also going to help us out in that department, because since we're in the upper 30s and low 40s in most spots, it's going to take some time once temperatures get down to freezing to watch as the ground temperatures and the roads fall below freezing, which will give us a little bit of a transition time where the rain starts falling before things begin freezing. Overnight tonight is, I think, when things will really take a turn for the worse. Not only will showers become more widespread, but temperatures will plummet down into the 20s tonight, which will intensify any accumulation. So this evening and tonight is when more widespread roads will turn slick and icy. And by tomorrow morning, I think conditions widespread will be impacted when it comes to any potential for travel. I think roads will be very icy on Sunday morning in most spots. And with dropping temperatures and accumulating ice, that's when we'll also introduce that possibility for trees breaking and sagging, as well as power lines, which would lead to power outages. Now, a big thing that we'll be watching on Sunday is temperatures, because many of our forecast models are hinting at a little bit of a warm up that could take place on Sunday. Not a big one, but it could be the difference between below freezing temperatures and additional ice accumulation, and above freezing temperatures and only freezing rain across metro Atlanta. So we'll be watching that very closely. But especially Saturday night and into Sunday morning, we're expecting high impacts when it comes to road travel because of ice, as well as that threat for power outages. So I would advise you, if you still have anything you need to get done to prepare for the storm, do it this morning. Make sure to stay out of the way of GDOT. Don't get on the roads if you don't have to, but if there are preparations that still need to be made, you've got a little time in most locations this morning before things start to become a little more hazardous later this afternoon and tonight. We do have winter storm warnings in effect up towards the north of us. For us in North Georgia, it's mainly an ice storm warning. So this includes metro Atlanta, as well as all of our northern and northeastern counties. in these locations highlighted by the ice storm warning, that is where significant ice accumulation is expected and where impacts are expected to be the greatest. Down towards the south, we've got winter weather advisories. In these spots, we're still anticipating some ice accumulation, but it will not be quite up to the level of what we're expecting up towards the north. And that just means that there won't be quite as much ice accumulation. Now, this is just one of our forecast models, so I don't want you to get too attached to the exact numbers, but it looks most likely that this little northeastern corner of the state is going to pick up the most ice. We're talking up to a ½ inch to maybe a full inch of ice accumulation, which is catastrophic ice accumulation. In some cases, it would lead to widespread power outages and it would make roadways impassable. Through Metro Atlanta, the I-20 corridor, we're talking up to maybe a quarter to a ½ inch of ice accumulation, and even that is enough to still have moderate impacts. So the biggest impacts expected from this are going to be up to the northeast of the metro, through that I-20 corridor, the I-75 corridor. That's where we're expecting moderate impacts. And then as you go down towards the south, impacts will be a little bit more minor, and there will be some spots that don't pick up any ice at all. Ice accumulation quickly leads to impacts, though. It takes only a 1/10 of an inch of ice for a light glaze to develop on roads and sidewalks. It leads to slick bridges, coated windshields, as well as isolated power outages. By the time you get a quarter of an inch of ice accumulation, roads are icy, tree limbs begin to sag and break, which makes our power outages more numerous. And then a ½ inch of accumulation is when travel becomes dangerous, if not impossible on roads. It leads to widespread tree damage and long-term power outages. And in some spots, we are looking at a ½ inch or more of ice accumulation over the course of the next 48 hours. Here's how it plays out according to our forecast track. So temperatures up into far north Georgia are already starting to climb down below the freezing point. So up into the far northern portions of the state, we could start to see additional sleet or freezing rain really within the next couple of hours. These showers, though, throughout the day today are not going to be widespread. We're talking kind of hit and miss showers today, and a lot of what falls is going to be rainfall. As we get to this afternoon and evening, the precipitation becomes more widespread, but temperatures for the most part are still hovering near, if not slightly above freezing. It's overnight tonight that I think things will really take a turn. Not only is precipitation more widespread, but our temperatures are falling, which leads to more widespread freezing rain. And this is when a lot of our ice accumulation will take place after about midnight tonight through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Temperatures will be in the 20s and the low 30s. Now, our forecast for tomorrow is highly dependent on the wedge eroding. So the wedge is an area of high pressure up towards the northeast that leads to kind of trapping cold air from the Appalachian Mountains across our area. And in order for the wedge to erode, that would lead to temperatures that are a little bit warmer into the day on Sunday, allowing us to climb above freezing by Sunday afternoon in some spots. Now, it doesn't look like that will be the case for many locations northeast of the city, which is why we will see additional ice accumulation even into Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon there. But this is by 10:30 in the morning on Sunday. Notice temperatures are still at or above freezing for a lot of people through the metro and up towards the northeast, but down on the south side and even to the west of the city, temperatures are starting to get a little bit milder as that next round of more widespread rainfall moves through. Because of that slight warm up, it looks like a lot of the freezing rain will actually transition back to just a cold rainfall through much of North Georgia. But look at temperatures. They're in the mid to low 30s, just barely above freezing. So even a small change in our temperature outlook for tomorrow could have big impacts to the ice accumulation that we see. Up towards the northeast of the city, it is very likely we never climb above freezing for tomorrow, and that's why our ice accumulation totals there are expected to be higher. This rainfall would help us get rid of some of the ice through Metro Atlanta and down towards the west, but it's also going to leave us with a lot of water into Sunday night and early Monday morning. So even once that ends, we're still talking the possibility of icy roads, especially into Monday morning as Arctic air sinks down from the south. So truly cold air is going to drop in from the north Monday and Tuesday. This will lead to temperatures that fall down into the 20s, teens, and even single digits by Monday morning. What that means is that not only will anything that's left on the roads either refreeze or stay frozen, but we may not have the opportunity to really see things melt in many locations until Tuesday afternoon, because Monday, up towards the northeast of the city, there will be some spots that do not climb above 32 degrees. That said, sun comes back out on Monday, so that will also help to melt. But for people that do end up losing power into Sunday or Sunday night, that means that it will be a lot harder for crews to get out and repair those power lines until Tuesday afternoon in locations where the ice makes things impassable. So the truly cold air comes in Monday and Tuesday. Look at those overnight low temperatures Monday night and into Tuesday morning. We fall into the teens and the single digits. Winds will also start to pick up a little bit, so it becomes breezier tomorrow. And that wind combined with ice accumulation is not good news when it comes to the potential for breaking power lines and power outages. Winds will settle by Tuesday, but we'll still see feels like temperatures down into the single digits Tuesday morning before we try to thaw out into this upcoming week. The bitter cold, though, does not look like it is going anywhere. We will continue to track this potential for accumulating ice throughout today, tomorrow, here on 11 Alive Plus, as well as on air. We have live updates here on 11 Alive Plus every 30 minutes, and we'll begin our live coverage. It's me with Chesley McNeil, beginning at 8:30 on 11 Alive. Good Saturday morning. I'm meteorologist Nicole Hartford. Thank you for joining us here on 11 Alive Plus as we track our weather impact alerts and the potential for wintry weather across North Georgia this weekend. We have that weather impact alert today through Monday for the potential of freezing rainfall and kind of a wintry mix that leads to ice accumulation. So if you haven't already, you need to plan for travel impacts and the potential for power outages, especially tonight and into tomorrow. This is a large winter storm that will be spanning the continental U.S. with winter storm warnings stretching from New Mexico and Texas up through the Northeast. And here at home, we've got ice storm warnings as well as winter weather advisories. Right now, that winter storm is mainly focusing through Texas into Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, and even far northern Alabama. We do have a little bit of that wintry weather that's starting to show up in our neck of the woods, but it's important to note that across North Georgia, the air is for the most part still very dry. So I suspect that a lot of what is showing up on the radar right now is not actually reaching the ground. And in locations where we do have a little bit of something reaching the ground, temperatures are for the most part still above freezing. The exception there, and where we could already start to see some impacts, some slick bridges and slick overpasses because of wintry weather, is really stretching from Chattooga County out towards Gordon and Gilmer County and up to the northwest. So this little northwestern quadrant of the state, that's where we could start to see some slick bridges and overpasses within the next few hours as we continue to track this wintry mix. For most of us, though, as I said, we're not seeing a lot of this, if any of it, reach the ground, and temperatures are still above freezing. And most locations pretty far above freezing. We're in the low to mid 40s this morning, 44 in Atlanta right now, 41 in Canton. These temperatures are going to help us out. It will be one of those days where it gets colder throughout the afternoon instead of getting warmer, but because temperatures are on the mild side right now, that gives us a little bit more of a transition period before road temperatures and before the ground drops to the freezing point. So even once rainfall begins, it'll be time before we start to see icy impacts. This is our view right now as we look from our tower camera in DeKalb County at Arizona Avenue towards the city of Atlanta. It is overcast, but at this point it is mostly dry, and that will be the case for a good chunk of the day today. Things will just get going as we go through the next couple hours. So we'll start to bring in a little bit of wintry mix throughout the day today. For a lot of us, anything that falls during the daytime hours today is going to just be rainfall, but the further north you get where temperatures are a little bit colder, that's where it becomes more likely that we could see some sleet or even some freezing rain. So throughout the day today for those northern counties, we may already watch as untreated roads, bridges, overpasses start to turn a little bit slick. By tonight, that's when things pick up. So accumulation is going to intensify, showers become more widespread, and as temperatures drop into the 20s, we'll transition from more of a cold rainfall to a freezing rainfall. So tonight and into tomorrow is when the real impacts take hold. We're talking roads that turn slick and icy. And then throughout the day on Sunday, winter weather will continue for many, but we're watching temperatures very closely for the potential of a little bit of a warm up, enough of a warm up for some of us to transition us back from sleet and freezing rain to a cold rainfall. Now tonight and into tomorrow morning, as ice starts to accumulate, that's also when we'll bring about the risk for downed trees as well as power lines, which could lead to power outages by tomorrow morning. And it looks like this will be an impactful winter storm across all of North Georgia, with hazardous roadways expected, and again, that risk for some power outages. So the main timeline for that is going to be tonight and into tomorrow. That's when I think impacts will be the most widespread, but we will continue to see in some spots accumulating ice even into the day tomorrow. With the anticipation of that accumulating ice, we have ice storm warnings in effect through Metro Atlanta and across a good chunk of North Georgia. Those locations highlighted in this purple ice storm warning, that's where we're expecting the higher ice accumulation. So we're talking 1/4 of an inch or higher. In some spots, that could be as much as a half to even a full inch of ice accumulation. So that's significant ice accumulation that will lead to hazardous, if not impossible, road travel and also power outages. Down towards the south, we have a winter weather advisory, so not expected to be quite as impactful, but we'll still see some impacts from that wintry weather. This is just one forecast model, but it gives you an idea of where ice potential is expected to be the highest. I think this northeastern corner of the state is where we will see the bulk of the more significant ice accumulation. So we're talking totals there of about a ½ inch to an inch of ice accumulation. If that occurs, that would lead to widespread power outages as well as impossible road travel. That is major impact from an ice storm that we're anticipating up towards the north. Through the Atlanta metro, the I-75 corridor, we're expecting moderate impacts, so still going to keep you in your house, still going to make for slick roadways and power outages, but maybe not quite to the extent of what we're expecting to the northeast. And then as you go southwest, minor impacts, if any at all. Ice accumulation, though, it does not take much to start seeing impacts from it. 1/10 of an inch is when a light glaze begins to form on roads and sidewalks. It leads to slick bridges as well as coated windshields and isolated power outages. By 1/4 of an inch of ice, we're talking icy roads, tree limbs sagging and breaking, and numerous power outages. A ½ inch is where it starts to become really significant damage with dangerous, if not impossible, travel on roads, widespread tree damage, and then long-term power outages possible. Here's how it plays out hour by hour on our forecast track. So we'll watch through the next few hours as some of those isolated showers continue. As I mentioned, it's really just those northern counties at first that are cold enough to sustain any type of wintry weather. So we could see some sleet up into those far northern counties, or even some ice starting to form on bridges and overpasses throughout the morning. Temperatures for much of North Georgia, though, are going to stay above freezing for a good chunk of the day today. Showers will start to become more widespread as we get closer to the sunset, and that's when temperatures really fall. So by midnight tonight, we're going to be below freezing across much of the area. We'll watch as those showers transition to more of a freezing rain, and this is when the ice accumulation will really start to pick up and things will become more dicey. Our conditions will deteriorate quickly overnight tonight because we'll have multiple hours of potential freezing rain and ice accumulation through tomorrow morning. As we go throughout the day on Sunday, some spots through the Atlanta metro down towards the south and off towards the west will get to see a little bit of a warm nose as our wedge deteriorates. That'll keep temperatures a little colder up into this northeastern part of the state, where I think we may not manage to get above freezing. That would mean additional ice accumulation through Sunday morning and even into Sunday afternoon in some spots up towards the northeast, while for the rest of us, this transitions to more of a cold rain once again. And at times, that rain may be heavy as this line of showers moves through. We may even get a couple isolated embedded thunderstorms associated with this. There is a severe weather threat tomorrow down towards the south of us into South Georgia and South Alabama, as well as portions of Florida, as this system moves through. This is just one forecast model, but it does paint a good picture of above freezing temperatures for the metro and down towards the southwest by Sunday afternoon. This would be beneficial because it could help to melt away ice that has already developed, and it would also stop any additional ice accumulation. But notice at this point, temperatures into the northeastern sections of the state are still right around the freezing point, which could mean not only additional ice accumulation, but not able to get rid of any of the ice. Well, that rainfall is beneficial in that aspect. It's also going to leave the ground pretty wet as we go into overnight Sunday night and into Monday morning, and that's when the truly cold air arrives. So Arctic air is going to swing southward by Monday and Tuesday. This will bring about a big drop in temperature. So by Monday morning, we're down into the teens and the 20s. By Tuesday morning, we're down into the teens and the single digits. That does mean that any water that is left on the ground Sunday night will likely refreeze by Monday morning. So if you're at your house, you notice maybe some of the ice is melting Sunday, it could still refreeze and lead to areas of icy patches Monday morning across the metro. Up towards the northeast, where temperatures tomorrow may not get above freezing, this is also going to pose more of a risk for extended power outages because crews will not be able to get out on still frozen roads on Monday or Tuesday. And in some spots northeast of Atlanta, We won't be climbing above the freezing point until Tuesday afternoon. This bitter cold air will also pose more of a risk for those people who do lose power, because temperatures inside your home will likely drop pretty rapidly as we get down into the teens and the single digits on Tuesday morning. So be ready for some very cold air in case of a power outage. As far as our conditions go into Monday and Tuesday, though, the sun will come back out. So once that wintry mix and rain ends on Sunday afternoon, I think the event is pretty much done with as far as additional accumulation. It just becomes the cold temperatures that we're dealing with. We will continue to track this winter storm across North Georgia as that wintry mix and ice moves in today and tomorrow. We'll have live updates here on 11 Alive Plus as well as on air.
folks, we're going to feel the impacts of this winter system that's going to be pushing through our area. Freezing rain, that's what we're looking at, and that can be treacherous. Any amount of ice, whether it's a tenth of an inch all the way up to an inch, will cause some problems for our area. Obviously, closer to the inch, you're talking about catastrophic issues as far as damage to trees and also power lines, long-term power outages once you start getting up to that inch point. Now, you're looking at travel becoming an issue. Our conditions will start to deteriorate as we head through the day today, especially going into tomorrow. Sunday is when we're expecting to see the bulk of the freezing rain in our area before it begins to push out. And then much colder air will come in back behind the system, which will refreeze what's already on the ground. So we're expecting these conditions or these impacts to linger right on into next week. And so we got some time with this one, folks. If you have not been out already, you want to get out and get back in as quickly as possible for today. You notice the ice storm warning has been extended a little bit further down to the south to include the Atlanta metro area. We're expecting significant accumulations really from the city of Atlanta up here toward the north and east. And so that's where we're expecting to see the higher totals or higher accumulations of ice. Just to the south of that, we have the winter weather advisories, where we're expecting to see some accumulations, obviously not as high as what we're going to see in the purple areas here, but that will have impacts as well, trying to navigate around on the streets and getting in and out, and also power outages, folks. Those are our two main concerns with this particular system. This ice storm warning will take effect this afternoon, 1 o'clock, and will last all the way through Monday, 10 o'clock. We're expecting those temperatures, again, to drop on us a bit, especially as we head into Monday. So we will get some sunshine in here, but our temperatures will not warm up all that much, and that's going to keep the issues going as far as the effects from this particular ice storm. Here's some good news. The models have backed off a little bit as far as the coverage, as far as the precipitation goes. We're expecting some warmer air to try to get in here on Sunday. That will help out as far as changing over the precipitation to rain. So we'll get some mixing taking place by Sunday afternoon, expecting some rain to begin to take over before the precipitation ends. But until then, we're expecting the ice to come in. Now, likely not to see that until we get toward the latter afternoon and then toward the evening. And those ice accumulations have been pretty consistent from Atlanta all the way up here toward the north and west. And now they backed off a little bit on the amount, the totals of 1 inch, but you get some isolated spots that could get up to an inch. Generally speaking, though, you're talking about 3/4 of an inch of ice in places like Murrayville up toward Tiger. That extends almost down into Gwinnett County, as you can see, where we have this blue area here. You're talking about 1/4 of an inch of ice, and that is even problematic for a lot of us. 1/10 of an inch of ice, you're talking about glaze on the roadways. That ice will collect on your windshield, on your car, higher elevated surfaces. You start to see a glaze there. Now, once we get to 1/4 of an inch, which a large part of our area will likely see, you're talking about icy roads. Don't want to be out in conditions like that. Tree limbs will start to sag, if not starting to break on us, especially after the storm ends, because what's going to happen is we're going to see the winds begin to pick up, and that will start to blow things around. And with that ice weighing down trees and also power lines, those will begin to break. Numerous power outages with 1/4 of an inch of ice. And again, that's the bulk of our area. Now, up into the northeastern corridor of the state, looking at 1/2 an inch and above. And that's where we'll have dangerous travel conditions, if not impassable roads where you can't even get out or even try to make it down a road, right? You got widespread tree damage, widespread power outages as well. Long-term power outages is possible when you have 1/2 inch or greater, okay? And I can't express to you enough how much the weight of that ice really bears down on things. Even, for example, I've been using the example of a mailbox as that accumulates on that. If that's a wooden pole there, it may even snap that. That's how heavy that ice is. Coupled along with the winds that will be blowing. Those winds will be gusting up to about 30 miles per hour. Looking at the radar right now, there's not a whole lot going on. The onset of this precipitation likely not reaching the ground. I was watching over toward the Rome area, finally saturating. You see how it ran through there for a little while, finally saturating that area, and then saw a couple of raindrops there. This is showing where we could be seeing some mixing, especially in the higher elevations of the North Georgia mountains, then back off toward the northwest as well. No doubt Dade, Walker County got a little bit of snow mixing in with maybe some sleet up there to the far north. What you see as far as the rainfall, that's over toward the Athens area, really haven't seen any or heard of any reports of any of that reaching the ground at all. It's going to take some time for it to saturate the upper levels, and eventually it will get to the surface. Over here toward the Rome area, for example, let's take a live look there, and you can see where the winds are starting to pick up a little bit there, and you can see the roadways are damp. So we've had some rain that has pushed through that area. Temperatures in this area have been above the freezing mark, and so we're still there. You're looking at 36 degrees right now over into George's Rome, 31 up toward Dalton, which is why I'm saying there's some mixing that's taking place there. Again, we haven't seen anything reaching around over toward Canton as it continues to push further over toward the east. Even Blairsville above the freezing mark at 34. You see we're in the 40s here in Atlanta down to the south. And so those temperatures will be falling as we head through the day. Much of the day will stay right where we are. In fact, these may very well be our highs for today as those temperatures will continue to fall, especially by tonight. And that's when we're expecting as far as the winter precipitation start to amp up around here tonight going into the wee hours of the morning on Sunday and then during the morning on Sunday as well when we see the bulk of it. This is a huge system. I know we're focused on our area, but you can see all the way up into Boston, all the way back toward Albuquerque, New Mexico is where the effects of this system will have great impacts. Places like Wichita, St. Louis, Cincinnati, over toward Washington, D.C., down toward Raleigh. Memphis seeing snow right now, expecting some warmer air to move in there, and they'll start to get in on some of that ice as well. These purple areas that we have over us and back off to the west is where we're looking at the ice storm warnings, but you can see a widespread area being impacted by this storm. Area of low pressure still back off to the west of us. That will continue to slide eastward. Above that is where we have the mixing taking place, where we have sleet and freezing rain, and then above that is where we have the snow. I mentioned Memphis earlier. You can see that's where they have the snow right now. Expecting that area of low pressure to slide to the northeast, and so they'll start to get in on some of that freezing precipitation as well. That will continue to spread our way as well. Now, as we get into the day tomorrow, this area of low pressure will start to slide up in our direction. It's going to drag a cold front through the area, and that's where we're expecting some of that warmer air to get in here. It's going to be two things that we're watching, all right? We're going to be watching what we've been talking about as far as a wedge is concerned, and then that warmer nose of air getting in here, and which will happen. Will the wedge erode because of the warm air, or will it hang on, especially up here toward the northwest? We talk about a wedge, that's that cold air that dams up against the mountains. It kind of locks in place, and so as that precipitation rises over it with the cold air still in place, that still could mean freezing rain for us. But this is how our forecast track model times it out. And so you can already see what's already moving into our area, mainly in the form of rain, even though our forecast track model is painting snow up here because it's predicting or forecasting that the temperatures will be cold enough to support that. Notice the lift there. Clouds for the most part everywhere else, right on through the afternoon. I think our temperatures during the afternoon will still be in the 40s, or at least right around the 40-degree mark, and then we'll watch those temperatures begin to fall off. Here we are by 8 o'clock at night. Up here to the north is where we're going to find that freezing rain beginning. Maybe rain on the onset for us, but then that will start to change, or we'll start to mix with freezing rain first before it changes over into all freezing rain. And you can see a wide area of it as we head through the overnight. This is by midnight on Sunday morning. We'll be dealing with that freezing rain coming down. It will be with us right on into the morning on Sunday. It'll be off and on, as we see, right on through 7 a.m. By 8 a.m., still dealing with it. And then a front will start to slide through. That area of low pressure will start to lift to the north. It's going to drag a cold front through. Right along this line here is where we'll see some very gusty winds. We'll also be watching for the potential for a thunderstorm or two. That's certainly possible as that begins to push through. Will the wedge hold on? And you can see on our particular model, it's starting to erode it a little bit, where up here to the far northeast, we're still dealing with some of that snow coming down. And because this is heavy precipitation, not snow, but freezing rain, that would be some large amounts of that freezing rain, which is why we think the higher totals will be up into the northeast. That continues to push through. We'll get some rain on the back end of this. Will help to wash some of that ice away, but it's not going to be a whole lot. And once that moves through and gets out of the way, you'll notice our winds begin to shift out of the north, and that's when that colder air will start to move in, and that's going to refreeze a lot of what's already on the ground. And so that means that we'll be dealing with the impacts of this even longer, okay? Those winds will begin to pick up on us as well. Even though we'll get the sunshine in here on Monday, our temperatures will only rise to about 32 degrees, if that. May not even get that high, and so everything will be on the cold side. So even with the sunshine, we won't have a whole lot of falling that will take place. And what does thaw? Through the overnight, we'll see those temperatures down into the teens, and even some single digits. It's going to certainly feel like the single digits on the outside, so you definitely have to be on the lookout. So this will drag right on into Monday. Again, even though you see the sunshine here, we will be feeling the impacts of the wet roads and the cold air that's going to be with us. Notice the start temperature on Tuesday morning. I think we'll still have some slick spots around on Tuesday morning with temperatures down to around 15 degrees. 39 degrees on Tuesday, and then finally back to the 40s as we head into Wednesday. Things should begin to get better by then, but this could very well linger right on into Thursday of next week as far as the impacts go. And I haven't even mentioned the power outages, right? And how long that will take to get get folks back online, because you're still going to be dealing with the winds, you're still going to be dealing with those cold temperatures, and so that will play a role in getting folks back online. We will be here, folks, pretty much all day long. In fact, our coverage begins at 8:30. We'll be here to update you on everything that's going on, give you the fresh look at the models and what you could expect in your neighborhood and the impacts that will be in effect in your area from this winter storm. Keep it locked right here.
start of potentially the worst ice storm we have seen in more than a decade. Widespread power outages are likely. Water main issues are a concern. Some road closures began at 11 this morning, with hazardous conditions expected at least through Monday morning. We're covering the latest for you all weekend long, starting right now on 11 Alive.
And good Saturday morning to you, everyone. It is now 8:30. It's January 24th, and we are up early with you. I'm Jonathan Martin.
And I'm Aisha Howard. Thanks for being with us here on 11 Alive and always streaming us on 11 Alive Plus. Atlanta and North Georgia are among 230 million Americans under this winter storm warning, watch, or advisory this weekend. And we want to get right to the latest headlines for you of this storm. Metro Atlanta and North Georgia could see significant ice on the roads. GDOT is taking precautions starting at 11 a.m. The I-75 Northwest Corridor express lanes will be closed. At noon, I-85 and the I-75 South Metro Express lanes will close until GDOT decides it is safe to travel.
Now, GDOT is already out there on the roads, treating them with millions of gallons of brine, but treating roads for ice is very different for when we get snow. So once freezing rain starts tonight, remember it's best to just stay off the roads unless you absolutely have to be out there. The ice accumulation could be the worst we've seen in about 12 years. A lot of us remember this scene from back in 2014, and that means you need to prepare for widespread power outages. Georgia Power has already deployed their crews, but it does not take much, not much at all, to weigh down the power lines. So here's what you want to do already. If you haven't, charge your phones, gather extra batteries, and make sure you have non-perishable food for at least 3 days. And if you have a generator, get it ready, but make sure you keep it outside. Always be safe with those generators.
Georgia Emergency Management says extra crews are on the ground and ready for whatever is to come. Since Governor Kemp declared that state of emergency, that makes it easier and most efficient for GEMA to go ahead and deploy that help ASAP. By this afternoon, you need to have your exterior pipes covered, and don't forget to drip your faucets overnight.
All right, well, we've got a lot to get to, and we have team coverage all weekend long for you. From Metro Atlanta to White County, we are making sure you and your family can stay safe and up to date on the latest conditions. But first, let's get to our meteorologist, Chesley McNeil, with us this morning following the latest on this weather event. Good morning, Chesley.
Good morning to you guys. If we could switch that over to Max 2 for me, producers. Yes, we'll be looking at our 11 Live Weather Impact Alert. Now, our 11 Live Weather Impact Alert is showing that we have with the potential for freezing rain to push into our forecast area by the time we get to this afternoon and tonight. That's what we'll be looking at, okay? And so we're watching for that freezing rain, which is going to cause problems for us, major problems as far as travel goes and also our power impacts, all right? And so that's going to be taking place as we head through the overnight tonight going into tomorrow. Sunday will just be a day where, again, you just want to sit inside, watch us. We'll let you know what's going on, of course. We got reporters everywhere, and that ice will be coming down. Now, we're expecting that to stay with us at least through the afternoon on Sunday before things begin to change over. But behind that, we have some colder air that will be moving in. Ice storm warning now extending down past Atlanta, down to the south. You can see down toward Henry County, extending over toward the east. We're talking about accumulations here up to 3/4 of an inch, maybe even some isolated 1-inch totals in some spots. You see the winter weather advisory south of that, still expecting some accumulating ice to be around, in and around this particular area. A little bit of ice will do damage, okay? And so we're expecting some higher totals to be up here to the far north and east. And so we'll be watching for that. Checking out the models now, you can see where it's really coming into agreement together up into the northeast. From the city up toward the northeast is where we're expecting to see those heavier totals. In fact, when we look at the totals, it shows about, again, 3/4 of an inch of ice in a lot of spots. Widespread, Murrayville up toward Tiger. You got some isolated spots, again, that could be higher. But you make your way down toward the metro area, maybe up to 1/4 of an inch of ice, and even that can cause some problems. You got to put it in perspective, and let me drop that for you. You're looking at 1/10 of an inch of ice. You're looking at a light glaze on some of the roads, sidewalks. Will be tricky to travel. Isolated power outage is certainly possible, but we're talking about a widespread area for North Georgia to receive about 1/4 of an inch of ice. That's where you're talking about those icy roads, tree limbs sagging down, our power lines sagging as well. Certainly you could hear some snapping of those tree limbs, maybe even trees toppling over. Some of those weaker trees could begin to topple over thanks to the wind that will be blowing around. Numerous power outages with 1/4 of an inch. 1/2 an inch or better, well, you're looking at dangerous road conditions. In fact, you probably can't even get around. It will be impassable. And then we're looking at widespread tree damage and power line damage as well. Long-term power outages when you have about a half an inch of ice or higher. You're talking about very heavy conditions as far as the ice goes, way down things. And we're starting to see some of that precipitation begin to move into our state. Now, up here to the far northwest is where we're starting to see a little bit of mixing taking place. A lot of this not reaching the ground because of evaporating cooling. So it starts to fall out of the sky, but then it evaporates before it reaches the ground. I was looking at Georgia's Rome not long ago and finally starting to see a little bit of that weather starting to reach the ground where we have a little bit of wetness on the roads. Temperatures there are above the freezing mark. Here's a live look right here where you can see the road's a little bit darker because some of that is starting to reach the ground. Not heavy at all, but likely in the form of rain. Will likely change over into a mix of rain and freezing rain a little bit later on. Right now, that temperature is at 36 degrees, and so it's above freezing. Where you're below freezing is up toward Dalton, up in Dade, Walker County as well, where we're likely seeing that mix. Probably some rain mixing with some sleet, maybe some freezing rain already starting to start up here in the far northwest. That will continue to push east. I think we're going to catch a break. And now you notice down here to the south, Atlanta, southward in the 40s. I think those temperatures will be our highs for today. Those temperatures will be falling as we head through the afternoon, but likely to stay around the 40-degree mark right on through about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. And we're really not starting to see, or probably not going to see, the freezing rain start to pick up until we get to the latter afternoon going into the evening. This is a big system, folks, not just our area, but you can see how it spreads all the way up from Boston, all the way back to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we're looking at where you see all the winter storm warnings and also those ice storm warnings as well that are down here to the south. We're tracking an area of low pressure that's going to continue to lift further off toward the north and east. You see the rain down toward Houston, for example. We'll get in on some of that by tomorrow, but by and large, snow, sleet, and freezing rain will be around as we head into the afternoon, tonight, into tomorrow morning. We're going to continue to track this system for you, keep you updated all day long. Guys, back to you.
All right, Chesley, we'll be checking back with you a lot this morning. Well, Hall County residents prepare for this icy weather, as so many are. And for some, that simply starts, Aisha, with a tank of gas.
Yeah, our Doug Turnbull is out at the Quick Trip there in Oakwood along Highway 53. Doug, I was looking at my gas. I was like, oh, half tank, that's not going to do it.
No, you need a full tank just in case. Of course, you're close to the, camping out close to the station there. But for those that do have errands to run today or maybe essential workers, you need to have that full tank of gas. And that's just what we're seeing people get here at this Quick Trip off of Highway 53. Now, when we got here, skies were overcast. It was just spitting rain. And then a few moments ago, the sleet picked up here. We actually got some video of that sleet falling and hitting our car. Now, since that time, that sleet has died off just a little bit. At this Quick Trip, there's been a steady stream of traffic here. And on the way driving here, we went from Chamblee up to Gainesville. We saw that GDOT crews had pre-treated the roads of Bryan, the tire tracks in those roadways. And once we got here, we spoke to Saul, a resident here in Hall County, who said he isn't worried about the pending weather as much. He's just looking forward to relaxing.
For today, just eat some pizza, you know what I'm saying? Some chips, watch a movie or something. And then tomorrow, just relax, you know what I'm saying? Pancakes in the morning or something.
I know what he's saying. Now, Hall officials tell me they're opening their emergency operations center at noon, and then we'll be reaching out asking them about their game plan for treating the roads and how many assets they're using here in Northeast Metro Atlanta. And Hall County has several critical bridges that cross Lake Lanier. We're also going to be traversing the county, guys, and checking different spots and talking to people about their preparations as this weather moves in tonight. In Oakwood, Doug Turnbull, 11 Live News.
All right, Doug, we'll be seeing you all throughout the morning. Take care out there. We'll see you soon. All right, well, we'll be checking with Doug in just a moment. Again, we have crews all across the metro right now.
Yeah, we are taking you from north to south. Did you see that team coverage box at the top of the show? That is so crucial to make sure we have you covered in all areas. Also keeping you covered here in the 11 Alive streaming center, because when we're not on air, you can find us always on 11 Alive Plus. Let's hand it over now to Dan Kennedy right now from the 11 Alive streaming center with what we're tracking throughout this morning. Dan, hey.
Aisha, good morning to you. It was in the streaming center that we brought you a live interview with Mayor Andre Dickens of Atlanta yesterday. And we talked about the storm. He joins our team of meteorologists in calling this a dangerous ice storm. He said the city of Atlanta has 3 warming centers ready to go. They are open now, and they have a 4th ready to open if enough people start showing up today and they need that overflow space. He also advised folks in the meantime to just stay off the roads because they need that space open for utility crews and road workers to do their job, the bulk of which, he says, starts in just a few hours from now.
Let's not have people on the roads unnecessarily. Saturday afternoon, you will start to see Atlanta Department of Transportation out with the salt trucks and brine trucks, as well as GDOT. You also will see Georgia Power as we prepare them for in the event that tree branches and trees snap power lines, so people may be without power. So we're just telling people, be prepared, have batteries, have flashlights, have food and water that can last you a couple of days as we wait out this ice event.
I also asked the mayor where he's going to be waiting out this ice event. He's going to be watching it from the city's Emergency Operations Center, which is going to be at the police department. He says that they will be there alongside the sheriff, Georgia Power, Grady Hospital, GDOT, and others. Aisha, Jonathan.
All right, Dan, we'll be checking back with you live from the streaming center.
State officials are getting ready to keep people safe in the storm. It is a coordinated effort from GEMA to GDOT to the governor's office. 11 Alive's Caitlin Ross is joining us outside GEMA headquarters, where we will hear from all of them coming up in a little bit. Caitlin, what are we expected to hear from them today? I know they've been working around the clock.
It's really all about safety. Officials are so concerned that people stay off the roads and make sure that they have the supplies they need to stay safe. They are anticipating a really bad storm, and that's why they're being so aggressive with this messaging. They want everyone to know you need to be prepared for 3 days, possibly in the worst case scenario, 3 days without power. So they're asking people to get prepared now. They're going to have a news conference today at 11 o'clock that's going to go over all of the information you need to know. And all of the emergency management services are coming together. So it's GEMA, GDOT, the governor's office. They really want to speak with a united voice to just drill down on how serious this is. Yesterday, they talked about how important it is that everyone prepare now.
Think of ways to safely heat your house, especially if the power goes out. And remember, never use your oven to heat your house. And don't bring a portable generator inside. Before the storm hits, make sure your gas tank is full and prepare an emergency car kit, including a first aid kit, cell phone charger, jumper cables, blankets, water and snacks, and an ice scraper.
This morning, you could feel it there on your tires. So we'll be live here all day today.
So as that winter storm threatens parts of the region, Jonathan, all eyes are on Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport.
That's right. Airport leaders, Aisha, say they are watching conditions closely and are confident flights for now will keep moving. 11 Alive, Stephanie Chaynock joining us from the world's busiest airport with how they are preparing. Steph, good morning.
Good morning, Aisha and Jonathan. Yeah, so airport officials say they are watching where the storm moves very closely, but they are confident that Hartsfield-Jackson will stay open today. We know they have some crew members working 12-hour shifts, and actually the airport for the first time is going to be using some new ice clearing equipment, and hopefully that helps not delay many travel plans for travelers. Let's give you a live look now here at the main checkpoint. We've been talking to a few travelers this morning. Some have actually rescheduled their flights earlier to fly out this morning instead of the afternoon in anticipation of what may happen here once that ice begins to form. We know still delays and cancellations are being tracked right now. Flight Aware showing some impacts nationwide. Now, these are flights coming in and out of Atlanta's airport right now. We're seeing about 38 delays, also 239 cancellations. Several major airlines we know, including Delta, American, Southwest, United. They have all waived any type of fees for passengers that do decide to reschedule or cancel their flights this weekend altogether. Many of those airlines offering that through even Monday morning. And so we're going to be here all morning long. And in the next half hour, you're going to hear from some passengers. We've spoken to one who's actually traveling with his wife to Maui. So he's going to much warmer conditions right on time. Live here at Hartsfield-Jackson, I'm Stephanie Chaynock, 11 Alive News.
All right, Steph, thank you so much. We've got you covered across the board, and we'll stick around with you all throughout the morning.
Yeah, we'll be right here on 11 Alive and over on 11 Alive Plus. We'll take a short break and be right back.
Extended coverage of the current weather impact alert is sponsored by Premier Generators.
People across northeast Georgia are bracing for the start of what could be the beginning of days without power or even access to transportation.
That's right, Aisha. And as we've been telling you all week, that area in particular, one area will be particularly seeing some freezing rain. 11 Alive's Chase Howell is forced this morning in White County, which is just below the Tennessee border. He's been there for the last couple of days.
Chase, is it finally sinking in for people that they could be iced in for a few days potentially?
Aisha, Jonathan, it is, but listen to this. So within the last 15 minutes, it started doing this sleet and ice mixture here in White County. So for those naysayers who were saying, look, nothing's going to happen, our meteorologists were talking about this several days ago, but many people I spoke to here in White County say they're prepared. But one man tells me he bases the weather off his farm animals. So like I said yesterday, this man was telling me that if cows put their noses together, that means it's going to be a pretty bad storm. But if they are facing away from one another, well, that means that it's going to be okay. He also mentioned some things about chickens and laying eggs, but I won't get into all that. But I did speak to the owner of an Ace Hardware who says he's seen 80% more business in the last 3 days than he's seen within a week.
I think a lot of people are preparing for the worst. I think this one's probably going to surprise us by the volume of people that's concerned of what's to come. You know, you never know exactly what you're going to get in North Georgia. So, you know, you got to be ready here because the hills and the steep climb, you know, you got to be ready with the salt and all that preparation.
Yeah, preparation has been the word of the last several days here. And listen, these hills here are no joke. But some of the things he told me he sold out of road salt, he sold out of canteens, he sold out of those little lantern things that you can have and the little wicks that you put in, kind of like 1800s if you can picture that. He's out of sleds. People think it's going to be snow, but as we've heard from our meteorologists, we're going to be seeing ice. But coming up at 9 o'clock, you're going to be hearing from a businesswoman about her plans over the next couple days. For now, live in White County, Chase Howell, 11 Alive News.
All right, Chase, thanks so much. Everyone getting ready.
I know, and everyone wants to see the forecast. Let's send it over now to meteorologist Chesley McNeil, who is tracking where this thing is. We've already been seeing some images out of Houston, Chesley, and that's what's headed our way.
Absolutely. This is a big system, right? And we are looking at that system making its way closer, or at least further over toward us as we get through the day. The air low pressure is back down here to the south, and that's what's going to drag a lot of this moisture over our way. You can see already starting to see some of that begin to push in. Now, we are under a ice storm warning. It really kicks in about 1 o'clock this afternoon and will last right on through Monday. But you can see how widespread the area is. Yesterday, this was up toward the north and east, and now Atlanta is covered in that. It's in these areas here where we're at least anticipating a significant amount of ice. A little bit does enough damage, right? And so we're expecting higher totals to be, especially up here to this northeastern corridor. So we're looking at this ice storm warning, again, lasting until Monday. Outside of that is where you have the winter weather advisory, where we'll get lighter accumulations, but there will be some issues. So you just want to stay off the roads. Can't stress that enough, right? We've been talking about that for a while now, where you want to just stay off the roads, let GDOT do their thing. And you may want to have a plan where you stay inside at least through Monday, because colder air on the backside of this will continue to linger these impacts. All right, what kind of impacts are we talking about? Of course, in the higher accumulation areas, dangerous travel where you can't even get out, and also power outages, which could last a very long time. And with this cold temperatures, may not have a heating source, that could lead to some other problems for us. All right, so we'll continue to watch this as we head right on through the day today. Not expecting those ice accumulations to pick up until we get to tonight into tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, this is going to be with us and may even linger into the afternoon. We're talking about amounts up to about 1/4 of an inch widespread. You can see that from Murrayville up toward Tiger, over toward Anderson, into South Carolina. That's where we'll be looking at those totals getting up to about 3/4 of an inch of ice. And then a little bit further down toward the metro area, you're talking about anywhere from, let's say, 1/4 of an inch, maybe up to a 1/2 inch of ice. Places like Alpharetta, down toward Atlanta Social Circle, up toward Talking Rock, which will lead to some problems as well. You talk about numerous power outages here. The further south you go, you got lower totals, but you need to be on the lookout as well. We're already starting to see some of this begin to reach the ground up to the far north. Now, again, we are looking at, in our area, by and large, at least 1/4 of an inch of of ice, okay? And here's the impacts from that. Icy roads, obviously, don't want to be out. Icy sidewalks as well. Not even walking is going to be safe. Tree limbs sagging and also breaking. So as the ice begins to accumulate, it's going to weigh things down. And that's where we see those trees beginning to sag. Those could fall into power lines, even power lines sagging as well because of the weight of that ice. So it winds up being numerous power outages. And it's going to take a while to get those back online, obviously, because of that ice that's out there and trying to get to those outages. So we'll be looking at that as well. Right now, if you look at the radar up here to the north, where you saw a little bit of light precipitation coming down, could be in the form of snow, certainly in the higher elevations, but also some mixing taking place. I was looking at Georgia's Rome, where so far it's been on the liquid side, so maybe a few isolated showers there, and that's extending all the way over into the Athens area, where I haven't seen any reports of any rain coming down, still saturating the upper levels. Eventually, that will reach to the ground. Nothing here in metro Atlanta or down to the south, but eventually that will begin to move in, and we're expecting some major impacts around our area. Let's go over to meteorologist Nicole Harford with more.
Thanks, Chesley. And as we go throughout the next couple hours, more locations will start to see that transition from just a cold rain to more of a freezing rain or a wintry mix. So far, most of what we're seeing, at least reaching the ground, has been in the far northern counties, and that will be the case for a good chunk of the day today. As we go throughout the day, though, that's when we start to bring in that potential for not only more shower activity, but that transition to a little bit more wintry mix. So things won't really start to pick up until later in this afternoon. By 5, 6, 7 o'clock, temperatures will be dropping, and even a small couple degree difference will have big impacts to the type of precipitation that is falling. So this particular forecast model has us mostly above freezing throughout the daytime hours, which means anything that would fall across the Atlanta metro would be rain. The exception is going to be those northern counties where temperatures fall down into the 20s and the low 30s a little bit faster. Overnight tonight, things will start to deteriorate really quickly. So by midnight, we're down into the 20s and low 30s. We're seeing widespread freezing rain. And as ground temperatures and road temperatures get down below the freezing point as well, that's when we'll really start to see the icy roads take over and that potential for some tree limbs that fall because of the weight of the ice and even power lines, which will lead to power outages. Throughout the next 24 hours, those temperatures will drop. And then by tomorrow morning, we're waking up to still freezing rain in many locations. So this means multiple hours of a mix of freezing rain and sleet across the bulk of North Georgia. Now into Sunday during the day, things may start to change again. We'll warm up ever so slightly, which will allow in a lot of spots through the Atlanta metro and down towards the south and the west for that transition to go back from freezing rain and sleet to just a cold rainfall. And this is as much heavier rain moves in. So as those temperatures slightly warm up, that will help us get rid of some of the freezing rain. There are some exceptions there too as well, because our high temperatures may not end up getting above freezing up towards the northeast of the city, which will keep freezing rainfall throughout the bulk of the day tomorrow there. Because of that, we're expecting the biggest impacts up towards the northeast of the city. The further southwest you go, the less the impact is going to be. But no matter where you are tonight and tomorrow morning, especially, I'm anticipating hazardous roads as well as power outages from the weight of the ice. It's important to note as well that temperatures will tumble into Monday and Tuesday. That's when we bring in cold air. So even though the rain and freezing rain comes to an end on Sunday night, a lot of spots will still have water on the road by Monday morning, and that will refreeze as ice. So Monday morning may still bring slick conditions across a good portion of the area. Temperatures will take some time to warm up. Some spots won't climb above freezing until Tuesday afternoon. Stick around. We'll have more weather coverage coming up after the break.
Yeah, they told me weather break. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there still a guest ahead of us?
Okay. Ms. Jones, can you hear us? Good morning.
Good morning, Aisha. How are you?
I'm doing well. Anything in particular you want to make sure we hit?
Well, we're just going to talk about those power lines potentially coming down. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about preparation, what we've been doing to prepare, what folks can do to prepare, specifically about generators. I want to talk about the danger of down lines. I want to talk about how folks can report outages. And then really, if it's okay with you, I want to wrap it up by saying, thank you for your patience, your positive, comments and your prayers. We greatly appreciate that. But really, I want to spend, if we can, Aisha, the bulk of the time talking about what we've been doing to prepare thus far and just the unpredictable nature of what we're about to face.
All right, we'll do preps, power lines, patience. Welcome back, everybody. We want to talk to the people behind the scenes that are getting their communities ready. And joining us this morning is Wendy Jones, the Director of Public Relations for Jackson Electric Membership Corporation.
All right, Wendy, we appreciate you joining us this morning. We know you and your teams are really preparing for what we're expecting to come. How exactly are you all getting ready?
Well, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. So, of course, we've been monitoring the weather all week. And as we've been talking about all morning, just a little bit of ice coupled with winds can really bring down trees, can bring down power lines. It can make travel and restoration a little more challenging. At Jackson, we always like to stay prepared, but obviously we've been doing extra preparation this week because we want to make sure that we can get those restorations as quickly as possible. So a couple different things. Obviously, we want to make sure that all of our fleet vehicles and equipment are in great working order, especially considering some of the conditions they're going to be facing this weekend. Our Jackson EMC linemen, our system control operators, and our member service representatives have been on high alert. They're totally prepared to respond to members if outages occur. Now, we have over 450 employees here at Jackson, and we all have a coordinated response. We all have a very specific storm response role. But in addition to that, we're bringing in extra help. So last night, we had 150 crew members come in from Florida and South Alabama. They've all been briefed on our safety procedures and our system. And we'll even have more folks coming in today from South Georgia and as far away as Minnesota. So bringing in extra help. One of the things that we like to do is to station all of our employees and equipment and materials throughout our service area. So we cover 10 counties in Northeast Georgia. That's 274,000 meters, 15,000 miles of line. So as you can imagine, it's very important to have all those resources spread out. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Wendy, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm saying, Wendy, we're coming up at the end of the hour. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to try to get you back in our next hour. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you here on 11 Alive and 11 Alive Plus.
Yes. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. We are looking for users
Welcome back. It is 9:02 on this Saturday morning as we continue to monitor the potential for wintry weather and accumulating ice across North Georgia. We've got a weather impact alert that is in effect today into tomorrow and even Monday as we deal with freezing rain. This is expected to have impacts on travel, making roadways icy, if not impassable, and could also lead to power outages into tonight and tomorrow. We've got an ice storm warning in anticipation of significant ice accumulation that includes the Atlanta metro as well as really the northern portions and the northeastern portions of our state. And these locations highlighted by that ice storm warning, that's where ice accumulation of 1/4 of an inch to up to a full inch is expected, which again would make for dangerous, if not impossible, travel on roads and will also lead to power outages. Down towards the south, we've got winter weather advisories in place. That's where we're still anticipating some ice accumulation, but it may not be quite as widespread or quite as impactful as what is in the ice storm warning. Now, already we've been tracking some showers on our radar. It looks like a lot, but because the air is so dry at the surface, a lot of what's falling out of the sky is not actually reaching the ground. Now, where we may already start to see some impacts of some of this wintry weather is up into the far northwestern corner of the state, stretching from Chattooga County out towards Gordon up into Gilmer, where there temperatures are cold enough to sustain some icy bridges, icy overpasses, and the radar is also indicating some wintry weather there already. Those showers, again, in a lot of spots are not yet reaching the ground. This is just the beginning, though, of all the wintry weather still to come. This is a major winter storm across the continental U.S. We've got snow and ice stretching from Texas up into Oklahoma, Arkansas, out towards Mississippi and Alabama. So all of this is going to be headed our way, and things won't really start to intensify here until later this afternoon and evening into the overnight tonight. This is our view right now in Dahlonega at the University of North Georgia, where on the radar it's showing snowfall, but as you can see, not a whole lot is going on at this point. Now, as the ground continues to get a little bit colder, as the atmosphere saturates, we'll see more of those showers actually reach the ground. But so far, not much more than a few sleet pellets or a couple raindrops here and there. And a lot of it has to do with temperatures. Right now in Atlanta, we're at 45 degrees. And at a lot of spots around North Georgia, temperatures are still pretty far above the freezing point. So we're in the 30s and the 40s. It's only up into those far northern counties where temperatures may be cold enough to sustain a little bit of wintry weather at this point. Today is going to be one of those days, though, where temperatures fall throughout the day. So this is going to end up being our high, and we'll get colder as we get into this afternoon.